Greetings, YouTube. I'm going to be talking about the D20 sphere of systems, and specifically 3.5 and Pathfinder. So you're going to into those things that you may want to pass on this, or you may find it interesting when I talk about playing high-level creatures as player characters. Now, we all love weird characters. All of us out there have played something strange in our time. Lots of folks like to include species in their campaigns, whether it's science fiction or fantasy, that fall outside what we would normally consider um, the average world population. Because in high fantasy, we're very much used to dwarves and elves and gnomes and orcs and bugbears and kobolds and goblins and stuff. Those are pretty run-of-the-mill things. Yes, some places are going to consider them to be exotic because they're problematic and jerks. But for the most part, we're just used to having those things around. But some folks want to play something that's a little more esoteric, a little bit more outside the norm. And a lot of those particular species are going to have powers levels that are higher than gnomes and dwarves and elves. Um, so to facilitate that, you have to find some way of adjusting that. And I've been thinking about this for a while now. And there are basically three methods of achieving this end, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. And the first one is level adjustment. And I first encountered level adjustment in 3rd edition when they were talking about people playing species that are more powerful than the core variety, the core lineages that we are presented with. Um, and level adjustment works at, so say if you have a species that is a +3 level adjustment, that's a pretty powerful species. What that means is that just that creature, being what it is equivalent to a 3rd level character. So if you want to play one, and say you're doing a standard 20 level run, you're never going to have more than 17 levels of any class because you count as 3 levels of something because of just who you are, because you have so many spiffy abilities. You've got X-ray vision, and you've got wings, and you can phase through rocks. You've got a bunch of different abilities that let you do stuff. So those things are considered to be equivalent to the features that you gain from a class. Um, uh, and we can all argue whether does in fact work out that way, but that's neither here nor there. So the problem with this is that if you want to play a +3 creature within the level adjustment of +3, if you can't really play that at first level. So if anybody else's first level, you're either going to be playing a first level version of that, or you're going to have to really nerf it down to a very weak version of your own species, and then you are in negative levels and you work your way up. That's not a great model in my book. It's a much better system, say, if everyone in the group is starting at 3rd level. And some people do that because they want to have a little bit more oomph to their adventuring party when they come out of the gate. So you would then be a little bit ahead because you'd be a 1st level character, but not by much. You'd be a 3rd level creature and a 1st level character. And because you are a 3rd level creature, you do get some things out of it. You get monster hit dice, which are D8s. You're going to get probably 1 feat. You're going to get some skills, though they're going to be very basic skills. The kind of things that you see in the monster manual stat blocks, those skills that they're talking about, you'll be getting something from that kind of skill. So they're not going to be all that interesting. But you still have something to come out of the gate with. And it's also a great option if you have, at a later date in the campaign, you die and you want to come back to something interesting. You say, okay, we're all 5th level. I can come back as a 2nd level, whatever the heck it is that you're playing. And now you're considered to be the equivalent. The problem, of course, is that you're never going to have the unique and interesting features of the classes to the same degree that everybody else is. But if you're willing to swallow that bitter pill, go for it. Now, I've seen some creatures in discussion in books before. In fact, quite recently, I saw one that had a +15 level adjustment. That means if you were to play the campaign to level 20, you'd have 5 levels of classes. I believe it was a variety of dragons. So dragons do have a lot of cool features, but +15, that is a very big bitter pill to swallow. Now, another way to handle creatures is to have having creature levels. So you take levels in your biological ancestry. So what you do is you come out of the gate as a very weak version of your species, one equivalent to the gnomes, dwarves, and elves of the world. And as you advance, you have the ability to take levels in your species. Now, some DMs or GMs may require you to take nothing but the biological levels until you've maxed that out. Some may allow you to mix and match, so you can come out of the gate as just a standard version of your species, and you say, okay, I want to take a first level. My first level is going to be a barbarian. My second is going to be, mega super orc, and then I'm going to take another a level of barbarian. Then I'm going to take another level of mega super orc, thing. So you're going to be doing that if you want to. And if your particular species has like 3 or 4 levels, it's going to skew the um, variety of skills you have and stuff because you're going to be that far behind in your class. But at the end, you will be the full-blooded version of your species with all of its features. And if it's doing class level, I mean species levels, the idea is that you're equivalent in power to someone of the same number of hit dice. So you're willing to take that on, and it's a nice version in the sense that you get to come out of the gate with everybody else. You're everybody's first level. You have the skills, you have the abilities biologically equivalent in power levels to your companions, and everything's good. The problem is I've seen ones that had really high levels of that. Now, one of my favorite books in all the universe is Noble Wild. And I really didn't need to look up the people that make that, and I apologize, but I love that book. I've had the 3.5 and the Pathfinder First Edition versions, and it is just wonderful because it lets you play animals. They are absolutely ordinary animals in this, except they are sapient, fully sapient. They have the mental stats that are just as same as everybody else, all the gnomes and dwarves and elves of the world. They're just biologically absolutely ordinary animals. And a lot of animals out of the gate are either very, very weak or equivalent to a human. Like if you want to play a mouse, you're at a distinct power disadvantage. But you could be playing a mouse scion, blowing holes through things with your mind. Um, Very cool because you can be just riding around in somebody's pocket, think they can think you're a familiar, and then you like bring down the wrath of the gods themselves upon their heads. But some of the animals you want to play are going to be much tougher. You want to play a grizzly bear? That's got I think 6 species levels to achieve that. But in the process, you're going to get strength bonuses and con bonuses. You're going to be able to get very powerful attacks. You're going to get like rending, I think. You're going to get grappling and stuff. You end up with some abilities that are very cool, and you are very damn dangerous if you're playing a fighter or a barbarian. So you really focus in your skills, and you take like improved natural attack, which is allowed. Well, I allow it once per attack. You're going to be very darn dangerous, and you can have your natural attacks magic. Um, and this supplement shows you how to do that. So it's very, very cool. So you could literally have a claw attack. One has a flaming claw attack, and one has a shocking claw attack, and that's really going to make your opponent blink and think twice. But because of that, you're going to be losing some levels. They do have a feature in that particular supplement that says if you ever take more class levels than animal levels, you can't advance the animal anymore. What they mean by that is you go barbarian, grizzly bear, barbarian, grizzly bear. You do it that way, you're good. But if you go, barbarian, grizzly, barbarian, grizzly, and then you go barbarian, barbarian, boom, now you've locked yourself out of advancing any further in grizzly bear. And there are some folks who may want to do that. They don't want to play the full blown. For example, they may not want to take that last level, which bumps them into large. They don't want to be large. They want to stay medium. And I remember, medium still allows you to be like an 8-foot person. You could be a very powerful looking creature, even as a medium. You don't have to be large to be intimidating. So that's another method of doing it. Now, the last method, if you're going to want to play something, is if you nerf them. That's it. You play a nerfed version of that creature. I picked up a couple of supplements from a company. I don't remember what company it was. 5th edition products. And I purchased them because they claimed, and this is the claim they made on the first product they did, was that you will be able to play any monster from the 5th edition D&D monster manual. Any. That's a bold claim. So I'm like, okay, you've thrown that gauntlet down. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to see if you meet that if you meet that challenge. And I'm sad to say they didn't, because their version was to nerf things hard. One of the things they did is that anything over a medium was medium. So if it was a large creature, it was a huge creature, it was a colossal creature, didn't matter. You started as a medium version, and you were never going to get any bigger. They stripped out all kinds of abilities. They looked at the stats, and unlike under 3.5 or Pathfinder, which you have an array of stat bonuses and penalties based on every single, all 6 of those, in 5th edition, you're just getting 1 or 2 bonuses, and that's it. So they looked at the stats, like, okay, these 2 are the most powerful bonuses this species got. You're going to get a +2 on that and a +1 that. Okay, and that's it. So you're not getting the negatives traits that these species have, but you're not getting the full-blown positive either. And they stripped out so many of the powers. Now, they allow you to play smaller creatures. So if the creature you're going to play is tiny, you can still play a tiny version of that, because again, you're trying to play the creature itself. Okay, because a tiny creature or a small creature does have a slight power curve, issue against a medium. We all agree that small and medium are pretty close to each other, because the advantages and disadvantages of both, they pretty much work out. When you start getting below small or above medium, that's when the power curves start going, up and down. And the problem with this is, if you're going to cram something into a medium, is you really take away a lot of their oomph. Now, I can understand why you did this, and I personally am working on a idea for anthropomorphic creatures, and I may very well take up the whole cramming you into medium, but I'm going to allow options that let you to go above that. They don't give you that options in this particular product, though they do have a supplement that talks about allowing people to play species, playing characters that are large. But the main product that they produced that said you can play anything, didn't make it. Why? Okay, let's look at a dragon for an example. Now, dragons do in fact pass through a medium stage. Dragons are born small, they become medium, then large and huge, until they reach their full-blown potential. So there will be a time in a dragon's life when it's a medium creature, and it could be 100 years, which is equivalent to like, what, 2, 3 entire average adventuring party arcs, maybe even 4 if they're fast and furious. So you could be out there having adventured with 3 or 4 different groups before you decide to retire, because you've gotten large, and dungeon crawling when you're a large creature isn't quite as much fun as dungeon crawling when you're a medium. So that kind of makes sense that that dragon will pass through a medium stage. But in this medium stage, in this product, they're going to strip so many of your abilities away. And it gets worse if you're doing a creature that is much bigger than that. For example, they have a purple worm. And again, purple worms probably pass through a medium stage as well, but that's a very weak purple worm. Though I do kind of like the idea and the fact that a medium purple worm is much more intelligent than the eventual size it achieves. I kind of like the idea that a creature is born smart, and as it gains size, it loses some of its intelligence because it is so dangerous and large that it doesn't need to be smart. That's kind of interesting. And I didn't like the way they did that by nerfing things. In fact, while you're talking about great apes in the game, like this, apes are versions of gorillas, and then they talked about the dire version or the kaiju versions, like the Mighty Joe Young versions or the King Kong versions, the original King Kong. They just essentially said they're the same. So they're telling me King Kong and your average gorilla should be considered the same. Bull. That is absolute act of absurdity. Okay? You can't do that. I'm not fond of the nerfing a species to the point where it allows you to have a character that is the same power level as a gnome, an orc, or a dwarf. I am not enamored of that concept, and because at the end you don't get to play that monster. Level adjustment, species levels, you end up actually being able to play the creature as it is written in the stat block in the monster manual. Okay? You're playing the real thing. The nerfing option that this product from 5th edition took, you're playing a creature that has the flavor. And the product didn't sell itself as you can play creatures that species that have the flavor of monsters. No, no. They made the claim that you can play any monster in the monster manual, except you're going to be playing such a nerfed version of it that you probably don't want to play it at all. So they made a really bold game, and they failed miserably. So I'm not enamored of the nerf option unless you start out as a particularly average person version of your species, and you can then pick up a lot of other things along the way. There's a couple of different ways of doing that as well. I'll be discussing that if I ever get my ass in gear and start really looking at the Anthro idea I've been playing with. Being someone that suffers from ADHD, though, sometimes it's hard to focus and get things done. Sorry, folks. So this has been my discussion of how to play creatures or species that are more powerful than the core lineages that we're used to playing. And those are really the three models I think that you have to go with. You can do a level adjustment. You can do a species levels themselves. So you're taking levels in your own species, your own biological body, picking up bonuses to your stats, picking up all the different traits. Like if you're playing a tiger, you're picking up pounce and rake and rend. So you're really going to be dangerous in hand-to-hand combat. A high-level fighter tiger is darn dangerous. Hey, stop there. Sorry, cat chewing on a box. So I'd like to discuss this because if any of these folks have found a version of how to play more powerful characters that doesn't fit one of the three models I have presented, I'm really interested in hearing about it. I'm also interested in hearing about what you think about the three versions, the three models that I have presented: level adjustment, class levels, and nerfing. Do you think that any of them are better than the others? Which one have you used in the past? Or do you think that this is just too much work? I'm not going to let player characters do this. Now, personally, if our species had like a +1 level adjustment, I'm probably just going to hand wave that. I might give everybody else in the group a little bonus and say, we're good. You're all I hand wave them on a +1 level adjustment in my book. Anything higher than that, then we're going to have to start figuring out how this is going to work. But that's just me. So let's talk about powerful species and how people can play them in our campaigns without throwing the power curve completely onto the moon.